If you are looking for a cheap and easy way to make some custom blinds for your van or boat, I think I might have a solution for you. After trying a number of different ways, these are the easiest blinds I have ever made. They fit perfectly into obscure window sizes, they're blackout, thermal, very cheap, and just generally super easy. So let's go. We're in the boat and I am going to show you how I make a template for making these blinds. So come and have a look at this window. I'm going to set up my template using a bit of clear plastic. This gives you a nice robust template that you can sort of chuck about the place. I'm going to masking tape this in place along the top and along the sides. I'm going to leave the bottom free for the moment because we need to work around these circles. Oh, I need my scissors. So we then want to make some slits. Just sort of fairly, it doesn't have to be too accurate because basically all I want is for the plastic to lie flat against this window. Adam's taking the scissors down to the van, so we're just going to make do with a knife. When the latches are through, adjust your masking tape so that it's nice and tight and creates a nice flat surface. I'm then going to tape the bottom. We're going to make an outline around the frame. If you're doing these on site and then traveling back home to make the blinds, add as much detail to these templates as possible. So mark any screws so that you don't place magnets over the top of them. Make sure you mark the width of the frames and just generally make life easy for yourself. For the latches, we want to get a rough idea of the circle that it needs to go through. I've made one of these. I've made the circle far too big. There's like quite a lot of light leak and I'd quite like it to be blackout. Err on the side of too small because the foam and the four-way stretch carpet does allow you to sort of push through these latches. And I'll show you that later on. It doesn't look particularly pretty, but it should have all of the information you need. Label what each template is. So especially if you're on a boat, it'll be really hard once you've left the boat to remember which template is which. So I am going to label this port.
Yep.
And I call this the corridor. And I'm also going to say interior so that I know that this is the side that's facing in. So even if I flipped the template round, the writing would be backwards, so I would know that that's the wrong side. To make the no-sew blinds, you'll need some spray-on high-temperature adhesive, duct tape, double-sided tape, strong magnets, scissors, Sharpie, four-way stretch carpet or any material that's not going to fray, and some closed-cell foam. Here I'm using a thermal foam that we had left over from another project, possibly was meant to be used for floors, but I think you could use any sort of foam. The reflective covering won't really make much difference now that it's getting covered by material, so don't worry about that. I've cut out my template and now I have stuck it to the foam using some pins so it stays in place. I'm then going to draw around it with Sharpie and cut it out from the foam. I've also marked the circles and where I'd like to put my magnets, avoiding any screws. I'm now cutting out the holes where my window fittings go, but keeping hold of the little circles that have come out because we'll use them later on. Attach the magnets to the foam with some double-sided tape to stop them moving around while you do the rest of the work and also when you attach the carpet on top. I then cover my magnets with another layer of tape. This is duct tape. However, if you are sticking your blinds straight to a magnetic surface, say the side of a van, then I would skip this step or use a less strong tape as it will weaken the magnets. If you're using this on a boat, I think this is a really good idea because it'll avoid the magnets corroding in the sea air. And we'll be sticking another magnet to the surface of the window frame that is still strong enough to stick to another magnet, so it should work fine. Grab your four-way stretch carpet. Take note that there are two sides to the four-way stretch carpet, so make sure you choose the one that you like the best. One of them molts a little bit more than the other one. And then you're going to cut a seam around it just to make it a little bit easy, but this can be really rough, but make sure it's at least sort of 2 inches. To stick the blinds to the carpet, use the high temperature adhesive spray. Do this outside because this stuff is toxic. Start with one small corner and stick it down, and then flap open the other side and do it on the other side. Make sure that you add this to both the foam and the fabric because it's a contact adhesive, so it only works if both sides are covered. Make sure that you press it down nice and strong and cover up your work surface because it's very sticky. I'm now cutting out the holes just with an X so that I can stick the carpet to the outside of the holes. Just skip this step if you're not having to work around clasps. I'm then using the extra foam circles to go back into the holes just to stop the glue from going through to the other side of the carpet because I don't really want that seen. I'll then just stick on the other side in the exact same way that I did the first side. So flipping open one side, sticking it down, sticking on both sides, and really paying attention to the seams to ensure that everything's stuck down really, really well and you're not going to have anything sort of pulling apart when you cut. Flip it back over and remove the excess little circles, and then repeat that process of cutting through the holes with little X's, and then you're just gonna sort of manipulate the fibers and stick them down so that they kind of bond together. The feltness of the carpet tends to allow you to manipulate it in this way if you are working with these holes, so it should make quite a neat little opening without you having to do too much. Cut about an inch away from the foam to create your seam. This could be a little thinner or a little thicker depending on what you'd like. Tidy up the edges, and then that is your blinds made. We'll now talk about how to attach them onto your van or boat. I have made my blind. Obviously this is not for the van, it is for the boat, and therefore there are some slight differences. Because I used the Gorilla Tape, it's not quite as magnetic as my other ones are. You might find that it's fine, but what I suggest is maybe skipping the Gorilla Tape step. It's not going to be so important anyway because you don't have the sort of saltwater marine environment to think about. So my way of sorting that, and this is what I'm going to be doing on the boat, is that I'm going to stick an extra magnet on the back, and then I'll be sticking that magnet to the boat. If you have a van and you have the same issue where it's not quite magnetic enough, you'd like it to be slightly more, I suggest doing the same thing. So adding another set of magnets to the back and then just allowing it to snap into place. And what's probably going to happen is when you take it off, the magnets might even stay stuck to the van and you can just leave them there, or you could attach them with maybe a little bit of tape, or if you wanted something a bit more extreme like some epoxy, and that's going to really keep them in place. But again, I think this is just due to the thickness of the carpet fabric and the thickness of the tape that's meant it's not completely magnetic, and maybe if you've made it to fit, it'll actually be magnetic enough and it won't be an issue. What's really great about having this lip as well is that all of this is going to be completely blackout. The original blinds that I made for the van used a slightly different method. I was obviously sewing them, and I just used what I had around. So I had some old canvas fabric, I sewed the magnets in and used a sort of colourful fabric on the top. So that's what's really great about using the foam inserts and the magnets, is that you can pretty much do it however you like. And these ones have worked really well, and as you can see they're really strong because the magnet is not going through quite such a thick amount of fabric. These have worked great for keeping out condensation, keeping out the light, and just generally making the van look a little bit more stealthy. So I'm really looking forward to see how these also work on the boat. So we have our blind, I have my magnets on it, however, I have something to show you, a discovery. So I was slightly concerned that these were going to be too small, however, I have just found that they are the perfect size and actually hold themselves in place. Oh, just falling down the bilge. Hold themselves in place without the need for the magnets. This is obviously very specific to these windows, so if you're using it in a van or a boat that doesn't have these, then you will still need your magnets. However, if you do have these clasps, it will actually hold in place if you make the hole small enough. If the hole's too big, it'll just fall off and you'll still have to have a way of clipping it up there. Keep magnets away from all compasses and navigation equipment. I haven't found anywhere that says that you shouldn't use magnets in this way, but to be on the safe side, do not be sticking magnets on the back of your compass because it'll break them. I'm sure someone's gonna give me their opinion on this, so feel free to leave it in the comments. When it comes to my blinds that need the exterior magnet attached to them, because this is not magnetic, I'm going to be putting a little dot of paint onto the exterior magnet and then holding it up to the frame. Obviously this is not the blind for this window. And then just touching it onto the frame so that I'll then get a little mark. From there I'll be using epoxy Gorilla glue to stick my magnet onto the frame to avoid having to screw into the frame or use like sticky snaps that might come off. That's how the blinds will attach to non-magnetic surfaces. But I'm really pleased with that. Blackout, thermal, cheap, custom blinds.
No sew.
Huh?
No sew.
And you don't have to do any sewing. No sew.